Hello and welcome. Kate Holmes here, founder of Innovating Advice and host of the Innovating Advice Show podcast. Back with the first episode of 2021, and I wanted to come on here for a few reasons. So, first of all, if you are joining on the live stream, this is my first ever live stream. So, welcome. And if you're joining on the podcast, I hope to get this episode out later today. It is Sunday afternoon here in Las Vegas. It's football Sunday. We've got the championships on. And quite hilariously, we had about 6 fire alarms going off in the last half an hour. So, also testing this to see if, the universe is going to cooperate. So, covering today, I should say, is why the show has been on hiatus for the last few weeks. Then we'll do a look back on 2020. So, the podcast launched, I want to say we're on 11 months ago, almost to the day. So, look back on how that first year went. And then a look at what is ahead in 2021. And we've got lots of great stuff coming up. So let's dive in. Okay, so why has the show been on a hiatus? Well, I'm hoping none of you can relate to this, but you probably can. The number one reason I have been on hiatus for 4 weeks now is because our internet has been shocking. I have had tech people come out multiple times. We have replaced all of the equipment, and the internet has been so unreliable. So, if you have had a video meeting with me over the last month, I've had meetings just cut out, cut off. So, it's been too hard to, schedule a podcast and be able to rely on the internet for that to work. So, I'm also doing this as a live stream today to test if the internet is finally cooperating. So far, looks good. The second reason is working with people all over the world for the last, I think, 7 years now. I love how long people go on holidays. So, in South Africa and in Australia and in so many places around the world that are not America, people are gone for 3, 4, 5 weeks. So I have told myself for years that I've got to start embracing some of that and take a bit more time off. So I wanted to respect that for the people that have been on longer holidays. And I know some people actually might be coming back for the first time this week. So welcome back and to 2021. The third reason, and you might be looking around and noticing this, whether you're on the podcast or the live stream, is that I have done a full rebrand. So I'll share why I did that in a little bit. And the last reason is I've just been busy wrapping up 2020, taking some time off. I actually had my computer closed, totally closed and turned off for 6 days straight. So that was fantastic. I hope you did the same. And then launched into January, and we'll talk about what is coming up. Okay, so let's do a quick recap on 2020. So, all of you podcast listeners know that from day one, I have been committed to gender, racial, and geographic diversity. So, how did I do on that? Well, I had 74 guests throughout 2020. 50% of them were men and 50% were women, which I have to say was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be. But huge thanks to so many of the guests that I had on that recommended other people. A lot of you podcast listeners messaged me and said, "Hey, I saw this person speak, or I know this person. I really recommend them as a guest." So, hands down, the podcast would not have been possible if it weren't for all of you. So, huge thank you for listening, for recommending people. It made a world of difference. It was just so fun to get to know so many people. Had 20% non-white guests aligning with the racial diversity, and had guests from 12 countries across 6 continents. And I sometimes get in trouble saying all continents because I don't think too many people permanently inhabit Antarctica, but we'll say 6 continents. So success across the board there. I wanted to take a minute and share the top 10 episodes. So I'll go through these pretty quickly and I'll have a link to the show notes once I post this as a podcast episode. And I will link directly to these top 10 episodes. But it was super fun to see because going along with the gender, racial, and geographic diversity, you'll see that that actually came through in the top 10 episodes. So, starting with the most popular episode of the podcast to date was episode 34 with Carrie List, who is the CEO of FP Canada, which administers CFP certification in Canada. And that episode was very aptly titled Evolve or Dissolve. And it's been a very prominent, topic in the profession for years, but I think it was especially so in 2020 because it was all about how people had to be agile. You have to be able to evolve, to continually innovate, whether it's due to a pandemic or regulation changing, consumer needs changing, technology changing. Having that mindset of just being continually evolving is so important. And there's nothing wrong with dissolving. I know and have worked with companies where, it gets to a point where it doesn't actually make sense for the organization to evolve and it's perfectly fine to let it dissolve. So there's nothing wrong with that. But it was a really good conversation on coming to that crossroads and figuring out which works best. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, or if you're new to the podcast, highly recommend that. Episode 2 was one of my very favorite interviews of the year. It was with Dr. Mara Catherine Harvey in Switzerland, who has done amazing research on it's actually the risks of being a woman. So she talks about that research. She talks about what she's doing about it, some beautiful, amazing children's books that she has created. So links to all those in the podcast notes. Another great episode. The third is from Kim Potteter. And Kim, I apologize. I will get your name right one of these times. But amazing conversation with Kim on how coaching is financial planning done correctly. And this was a theme that came through the podcast. I didn't force it. That's what's been so interesting about just seeing, which guests are recommended by other people, who I come across. And coaching has been a huge theme for the last couple of years, but I think it really accelerated in 2020. So if you're curious about what that looks like, great episode there. And then another South African, well, he's from the UK, lives in South Africa, Brian Foster, he actually had two-part episodes 32 and 50, looking beyond financial planning. So what is the next stage of evolution? Because it's still a young profession and continually evolving. So you'll see even just between those four, we have 2 men, 2 women, we've got multiple countries. So fun to see that. And then we had from traditional AUM fees to flat fees with Dan Haylett in the UK on episode 52. Episode 62 then was number 6 with how to build a successful advice business without any prior advice. This episode was hugely popular because it was towards the end of the year and it just shot into the 6th spot. Couple more here. We had episode 54 with David Haintz on how to elevate your business and client value with tons of practical tips that you can implement straight away. And then number 8 with Derek Notman in the US, ditch the status quo and build your ideal life and business, talking all about the virtual model, which Derek has done since 2013, which is when I launched my virtual financial planning business. So fun to see the evolution over the years there. And then the top 2 spots is Next Gen Planner's mindset. So we talk about how being a Next Gen Planner is not about your age. It is really about your mindset, that innovative, evolving mindset. So Next Gen Planners Mindset and Opportunities with Rohan Sivajodi, co-founder of Next Gen Planners in the UK. We'll be talking more about him in a minute. And finally, the first episode ever, and a huge thank you to Clayton Daniel, the managing director of XY Advisor, talking all about driving the positive evolution of advice in Australia. So if you've missed any of these episodes, go back, check them out. All the rest of the episodes are amazing as well, but based on you, the listeners, these were the top 10 episodes in 2020. So I also wanted to share the listener demographics because it's always fun to see. I started the podcast with a focus on having it be featuring and for financial planners and advisors all over the world. So had listeners, I mean, like 70 odd countries, but I'd say dedicated listeners in 40 countries, which is super cool. And the top 10, the top three, it's really fun to see between the US, South Africa, and Australia. They're like constantly going between sort of first, second, and third. So overall, top 10, US, South Africa, Australia. Then we get into the UK, India, Canada, Zimbabwe, Malaysia, Singapore, and tied for 10th is between the UAE, Hong Kong, and the Netherlands. So tremendous thank you again to all of the listeners. And for those of you in the US, I know some of you, but I would really, really love to know who the listeners in the US are. And you'll see why in a minute, because I have something specifically for all of you. Okay, so what is ahead in 2021? It feels like we're already sort of far into the year. A lot has happened everywhere, I say, especially here in the US in the last couple of weeks, but there's so much time left. So, tons of opportunities to have great things happen in 2021. So, with the Innovating Advice Show, all of the episodes, assuming this continues to go well, will be live streamed. So the first one is going to be tomorrow on Monday, the 25th. It'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and it will be with Natalie Yan Chetonsky in Australia, talking about how to live a full-time life. So she actually works with financial planners to help you help your clients change the conversation around retirement. So rather than thinking, okay, I'm just going to retire, I don't know what I'm retiring to, which is a really common conversation, changing that into how do you have a full-time life? So I'm really looking forward to that conversation, again, coming up tomorrow. And then beyond that, have tons of great global guests lined up. Really excited about that. And I did want to say I will slowly be returning to the regularly scheduled episodes. So, regular schedule has been every Tuesday, and I actually release them just after midnight my time, because that's like one of the only times in the day where it's the same day all over the world. So, on Tuesdays, I'm hoping to get back to that schedule soon, and I will share for anyone that has purchased a house, which is most of you. It's never done until it's done, but we are in the process of buying a house on the other side of the country and moving cross country in the next couple of weeks. So between that and the other announcements coming up, and if the internet goes out, not trying to make excuses, but I'm just saying, please bear with me. I do hope to get back to the regular schedule as soon as possible because I love doing the podcast. Okay, what else is coming up? I'm here, I'm on video, and probably the number one reason I called it the Innovating Advice Show instead of the Innovating Advice Podcast is because I always wanted there to be this video element. And especially having guests around the world, having that focus on gender and racial and geographic diversity, I think it is so important to see people, to match the accents with the faces and the gestures. I just think that connection is really, really important. So that was always my plan. Like a lot of things, it takes us a little longer to get there, but video is also so important. And it has been for a long time, but when we're still in this time of life when we can't be there and we can't see each other, the very next best thing is video. So I have teamed up with Adam Owen, he's kind of a master of everything. He's in the UK, and we are launching a video creation masterclass. It actually kicks off on February 1st. So it's all about video creation, and there are so many uses for video creation. It could just be one-on-one videos with your clients. It could be sending happy birthday messages, congratulation messages. You could do a video blog. You could do frequently asked questions on your website, just tons of uses. And the ability to present virtually. So even if you're just doing Zoom or Microsoft Teams meetings with clients or with colleagues, it is strange to talk to a camera with nothing on the other side, or even it can be nerve-wracking when you are presenting with people on the other side. So we're launching this to help you with all of those skills because it's not really something that comes naturally to a lot of financial services professionals, and it's certainly not taught with all of the technical knowledge. So, like all new things, it does take practice, it takes coaching, but like learning anything new, it's also so much easier to do with other people. So, this is a masterclass with people all over the world. We already have people from 6 countries, from I think we're on 5 continents now, and amazingly, half are men, half are women. So, it's just super cool that that honestly has just happened. But registration is still open. It's a 3-month masterclass, and we're going to have a couple of live sessions, but for the most part, it's in a community format. We're rolling out content regularly, so you don't have to worry about, hey, is it, happening in a time you have meetings or, family or personal stuff going on. So you can participate throughout the day whenever it's convenient. But get registering. You can learn everything at innovatingadvice.com/masterclass. So we'd love to have you in there. And one of the biggest parts of feedback of people that have joined, I've said, hey, what got you to join? And they're like, I know I need to do this. I just need a kick in the pants. So if you've been thinking about video for a while and you've been making excuses and putting it off and you just need a kick in the pants, join us along with your colleagues all over the world. It's also just a great way to get to know people around the world. Another huge announcement is I am launching a brand new community called the IA community. So this is inspired by and in collaboration with a few different communities around the world. And that was really probably, if I think about like my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal in launching Innovating Advice and launching the podcast, has always been about, I've had the immense pleasure of working with people in 35 countries around the world over the last few years and having a lot of the same conversations around the world. I always wanted to sort of take a lot of the amazing stuff that happens in the US, because everybody around the world is curious. Hey, the financial planning is most mature in the US. What's happening there? Take that and share that with the rest of the world. But also, I've spent so many years seeing all of these amazing things that are going on around the world and wanting to bring those back to the US. So the podcast will remain globally focused. The community is absolutely open to people around the world, but it is going to be a bit US focused. And the branding, circling back to that, the rebrand aligns with Next Gen Planners in the UK. So I've been working really closely with them, and I have, I think, pretty appropriately named Adam Owen the head of fun and wild ideas for the IA community, because he is somebody that thinks huge, that constantly thinks outside of the box, does things you just would not really think that communities of financial planners would do, gets us all, inspired and pumped up. And so he is absolutely instrumental in helping launch this, bringing those big, crazy ideas from the UK over to the US. So a few sort of key virtues in the community is inclusion. So there are so many wonderful communities in the US. I have been a part of a lot of them. I know those people, they're doing really, really great things. But one of the gaps I found is that you generally have to fit into a certain mold to be part of them. And so I want to use this community to be open to anyone that is either currently or aspires to be a client-facing advisor or planner. And it doesn't matter what your fee structure is. It doesn't matter what certifications or licenses you have, because we also can tend to get in a bit of an echo chamber when we're only talking to people that believe exactly what we do. So this is about opening those conversations and getting back to that like next gen mindset. It's really about people with that innovative mindset. So people that want to think bigger and want to do wild things, and people to bring your own wild ideas and go, this might sound crazy, but can we make it happen? Yes, I'm pretty sure we can. So it is going to be locally focused. Like I said, locally focused in the US. And the reason for that is in working with Next Gen planners in the UK and working with the head of community at XY Advisor, who's based in Australia, we've realized that a lot of the conversations that happen within these communities are geographically specific. So that's why we're all working closely together, and we've got some really cool ideas for global collaboration, which is also a unique value proposition of this US based community. So speaking of, here's just a taste of the initiatives that you won't see anywhere else. So for the founding members, there is a free international speaker and influencer program. So think about if you've wanted to become a speaker, you want to learn how to get on stage, present in person or virtually, you can be part of this program. And within that, we are actually going to be selecting 15 men and 15 women from this founding cohort to speak at a global conference that's happening next June. So more details on that, but pretty darn cool. If you've ever thought, I want to be able to say I spoke at a global conference, that's awesome. There will also be free 30-day challenges on a range of topics. You get 3 months free in the community when you sign up for the video creation masterclass. And another big thing, no complaining. I have spent a lot of time as I've reflected back on 2020 and looked ahead. And for me personally, one of the things I did in October is just stop reading the news. I was like, there's enough negativity out there. I've largely stopped going on social media. I was like, I just don't want complaining. So this community is about driving things forward. It's about positivity. It's about creativity. It's about innovation. So complaints can go elsewhere. This is a place for positivity. And of course, much, much more. So join us for the live webinar. So we're going to have Rohan Sivajodi, who I mentioned earlier, the co-founder of Next Gen Planners in the UK. He will be on. Emily Blanche, the head of community at XY Advisor, who is a total rock star. She will be on. And of course, our head of fun and wild ideas, Adam Owen. So you'll get that international feel for the community, what we're all building together, how we're using it to bring the global financial planning community together. So you can learn more at innovatingadvice.com/community. So that is all I have for all of you. If you have any questions, go ahead and pop over to innovatingadvice.com. You can see the whole fun rebrand. If you want to see how I think somebody said I maybe went to extreme lengths with video on my website, but you can see examples of how you can leverage video on your website to engage people, to attract your ideal clients, to just build more of that one-on-one relationships. And of course, you can reach me by email anytime, kate@innovatingadvice.com. So since I am still getting used to this live broadcast, I just noticed it says there are comments. So I'm going to look over here and see if I can see. Oh, we've got Andrew in Australia. Good morning. Oh, Tobias, hello. You're in Switzerland. You're in Brazil. Natalie, fantastic. Super excited to have you on tomorrow. Matt in the UK. Yay. Thank you all. Okay, this is fun. So now I just learned I need to keep an eye on that. So good. I've got people watching. Fantastic. So I will get this up as a podcast later today. Thank you all so much. And thank you to the internet world that this worked and did not crash on me. So have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. And I will talk to all of you very, very soon.